I've been seeing this kind of icy nude look all over TikTok, especially with the launch of the new Huda Beauty Icy Nude Palette. Today, I wanted to create that icy nude look using the Huda Beauty palette, but on the other eye, I wanted to give you a more affordable version of how to create this eye look. So the goal today was to create the same eyeshadow look, but using two different palettes. So on this eye, I'm wearing the Huda Beauty Icy Nude palette, and on the other, I'm wearing the ColourPop Stone Cold Fox palette. Now, I haven't gotten the chance to do my in-depth swatches of the Huda Beauty Icy Nude palette and where I compare it to other palettes, but I gotta say, the Stone Cold Fox one is pretty similar, and I just wanted to put these to the test on my eyes today. So let's get started on this eye look using two different palettes. I did prime my eyes the exact same way. I just used the Rare Beauty eyeshadow primer, and then I set that with a translucent powder. From Stone Cold Fox, I'm gonna pick up Quarry Days on a fluffy blending brush, and I'm gonna start by running this shade throughout my entire crease. And this shade's gonna act as my transition shade today because I'm gonna do a lot of layering and a lot of blending. So that's why I like to start out with a light kind of brown matte shade in the crease. From Icy Nude, I'm gonna pick up First Class. Now this shade from the Huda palette is a bit peachier than the one from ColourPop, but I think it'll still do the trick. Now from Stone Cold Fox, I'm going to take Gravity Hill on the same brush, and I am placing this shade in my crease as well, still kind of doing the same back and forth blending motions. I love this kind of more mauve-y color. I think it's so pretty. I'm very happy with how this shade is blending out. It looks really nice and smooth. Now from Icy Nude, I'm picking up Unapologetic, and same thing, I'm blending this shade throughout my entire crease. This shade from Huda Beauty is a bit warmer than the one I used from ColourPop, so I'm kind of thinking towards the end of this look, we just might see some differences in the tone where I'm assuming this eye might look a bit more cool toned and this one might have a bit more warmth to it. Just very subtle differences. Again, I don't expect these looks to turn out exactly the same. I'm just trying to get the same type of look from each palette. Now from ColourPop, I'm going to pick up Stone Age. Now I just have a little bit of this on my brush, and I'm just going to use this shade to kind of smooth over everything in my crease. When I was watching a lot of these icy nude tutorials on TikTok, I noticed some people just really layering a lot of the matte shades together to get a really smooth blend. So I am using quite a few more matte shades than I typically use in my looks, but I just kind of wanted to try out this technique because layering and blending these matte shadows is what's going to give you the smoothest look. And then from Icy Nude, I'm taking Lavish. By the way, I am using two different sets of brushes for this eye look, but I am using the same brush for each eye. Like same type of brush, if that makes sense. All right, so taking Lavish and just kind of blending over everything. And then just comparing these formulas too as I'm using them, when I'm picking up the matte shadows and the ColourPop palette, I am noticing a lot of kick up and then just a little bit of kick up for the Huda Beauty shadows. So I just recommend that you tap off the brush to get that excess shadow off of it. I personally use this silicone brush on my desk and I just tap off my powder into that, and that's what works for me. All right, both blends are looking really good so far. Now I'm switching to a small crease brush and I'm gonna grab Obsidian. So I kind of have the shadow on the tip of my brush and I'm really gonna use this to deepen up the outer corner and my outer crease. So I'm gonna start by kind of packing on this shadow with this brush at first just to get the shadow laid down. And then I'll start to wiggle my brush back and forth to start to blend out this shadow. And I want this look to be pretty deep on the outer corner, so I'm going to do a few layers of this shadow. Then I'm going to take whatever's left on my brush and start to run that along my lower lash line. I find that it's helpful to do my lower lash line as I'm working on this outer edge of my eye, because I like to use the angle of my lower lash line to kind of figure out the shape of my shadow and how I want this to wing out. I did pick up a little bit more obsidian and I'm just building that up. I'm gonna go back to my fluffy blending brush and I picked up a little bit more Stone Age and I'm just gonna re-blend this in the outer crease area to kind of soften out obsidian. I am loving the smokiness of this look so far, and these ColourPop matte shades are working beautifully. Now from Icy Nude, I'm going to pick up Faux Fur, and I'm using this shade to deepen up this eye. So again, I'm just starting on the outer corner of my eye and I'm doing very small little circular motions to blend out this deeper shade, and then bringing that same shade down to my lower lash line. And then taking a bit more lavish on my fluffy blending brush and using that to soften out Faux Fur. I'm just touching up this darkest shade a little bit more, and I'm gonna make sure that the shape of this dark shade is the same on both sides. So I'm bringing this shade about halfway into my eyelid. You can see that, and I need to bring it this side in a little bit more. So I'm just kind of taking whatever's left on my little small crease brush. Now it's time to add the matte white to this look to really give the eyes the kind of icy effect. So from ColourPop, I'm going to take Dreamful on a flat lid brush. So I have it on my brush like that, and I'm really going to build up this shade on the inner half of my eyelid. And you want to make sure you use a brush for this, because I'm almost going to kind of carve out my inner crease with this shadow, kind of like how I used to do a half cut crease with concealer, but this time I'm just really using this shadow to kind of carve out this shape in my inner lid. And you also want to bring this all the way into your inner corner. And I am really building up this shadow. I'm dipping back in quite a few times to get the pigment that I want. I believe you can kind of bring it down a little bit too into the inner lower lash line area. Now this shade from the ColourPop palette is one of those matte shades that has a little bit of sparkle in it, so it's not completely matte, but it is showing up pretty matte, I'd say. And you can see I'm bringing this shadow to the halfway point of my eyelid. Then I'm going to take my crease brush with no additional product on it, and I'm just going to very softly stamp where this white is meeting this deeper shade on my outer corner, just to give it a very, very soft blend. Now from Icy Nude, I'm going to pick up Avalanche. Now this shade is like an actual matte white shadow, so I'm interested to see how this is going to compare to the ColourPop side. And again, I'm continuously dipping my brush back into this shadow. If you find that this white shadow isn't sticking or showing up very well, you could totally do a little bit of concealer underneath it just to really get this shadow to pop. I'm a little bit surprised, but I think the white on the ColourPop side is popping just a little bit more. And I feel like it almost has a tiny bit of a blue kind of undertone to it, and I'm wondering if that's like that tiny bit of sparkle that's in that shadow. Even with all the layers of the shadow I'm doing on my Huda Beauty side, I think the ColourPop side looks better, honestly. And then doing a very soft blend right here in the center. I want to add some shimmer now, and I think this is where we're going to see the biggest difference between the two palettes, because the shimmers on the Huda palette are absolutely stunning. They're reflective, they're metallic, they really pack a lot of punch, whereas the shimmers on the ColourPop palette are kind of more just like your typical everyday shimmers that we see. They're more of a soft shadow. They're not going to have a lot of reflect to them, but they are pretty. Just to give you a quick side by side, these are ColourPop, these are Huda. So I'm expecting to really love the shimmers on the Huda side, but we'll see how it looks on the ColourPop side. I'm actually going to start on the Huda Beauty side, so I'm going to take VVS on my finger, and I just very gently picked up a little bit of that shadow on my finger, and I'm going to tap this on the very center of my eyelid. So I'm kind of placing that where the white shade is meeting the deeper shade, just to give me a little bit of sparkle. How pretty is that? And what's nice about this shimmer formula from Huda is that you really can layer it up to get a metallic look if you want. I did that with the previous look where I layered my NYX glitter primer and then Diamond Dew on top, and it was like the most beautiful metallic silver shade. Or you can just tap on a little bit like this just to get some of that kind of sparkly effect. So again, there's not really a shimmer in this palette that's going to give me that exact same effect. So I'm just going to take Mystery on my finger. That is what that shade looks like on my finger. And again, I'm going to tap that in the center, right where the white is meeting the deeper shade. It's definitely a really pretty look with that shimmer shade. It's just not going to give you the same effect as this one. I also really wanted to play with this iced out shade, so I just picked up a little bit on my finger, and I'm going to do the same thing, just tapping right on the center of my lid. So I'm kind of mixing iced out and VVS together. From ColourPop, I'm going to grab a little bit of So Fine, and I'm going to place this where Mystery and that white shade meet. So I kind of want this lid to go from matte white to that really soft pink to that Mystery shade, then to the deeper outer corner. I just love having a soft gradient on the eyelids. Last step is going to be adding some liner. So I'm going to take Drama Mama from ColourPop on a tiny winged liner brush, and I'm going to stamp that across my entire top lash line. And then from Icy Nude, I'm going to use She's Rich. And then I'm also adding a nude liner to both waterlines. Alright, mascara and lashes are done, and for my lashes, I'm wearing the Bright Lashes 3/4 lash in Flutter. Now I say 3/4 because this lash isn't a true full strip lash, but it's also not a true half lash. It's kind of right in the middle, sitting at a 3/4 length. Now this lash is from my small business, The Bright Lashes, and our Black Friday sale is going on right now, and it also is Black Friday, so happy Black Friday. All of my lashes are only $9 right now on my website when they're normally $12 a piece, and that sale goes on until December 2nd. I don't do sales a lot because I am a very, very small business, but this is the most discounted I ever priced my lashes at, so if you've been wanting to try them, now's a great time to do it. Alright, and then here's what the full face looks like. On my cheeks, I'm wearing the Essence Pure Nude Baked Blush in the shade Pink Flush. I love the bit of sheen that this shade has, but I wanted something a bit more cool tone pink, so I added my Too Faced blush in Candy Clouds on top. This is my go-to cool tone pink blush when I just want that like cold girl look, you know? It really goes really nicely with this more icy nude makeup look. I did want to give a quick shout out to this new bronzer that I got in PR. It's by What's Up Beauty, and I believe this is their very first kind of powder product. They came out with blushes and bronzers, but this bronzer in the shade 10 Fair is the perfect bronzer if you have pale skin like I do. It does not pull warm or orangey on myself at all. I find that I do have to build it up a few times just to get the pigmentation that I want, but if you are fair and you have a hard time finding bronzers, I highly recommend checking this one out. And then on my lips, I'm wearing my Makeup Forever lip liner in the shade Endless Cacao with my Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb Stix in the shade Blaze Donut. But let's talk about these eyes really quick and how I'm wearing two different palettes right now, but I feel like both eyes look pretty dang similar. I am pleasantly surprised that I got pretty much the same look out of these two palettes. For again, the only differences I'm really seeing is like the tone of each look. So again, for this Huda eye, I just see a bit more warmth, especially this kind of brown shade wrapped around, whereas the ColourPop eye is just a tad bit more cool toned. And then again, the shimmer formula that you're getting in each palette, they are very different. The ColourPop shimmers are more like your classic, just lightweight shimmer, whereas the Huda Beauty shimmers are really going to give you that sparkle and reflect. But I gotta say, I had so much fun filming this video, and I really liked trying to create the same eye look using two very differently priced palettes. So maybe if you're someone that was really tempted by the Icy Nude palette but don't want to spend $69 on a palette, the ColourPop Stone Cold Fox palette is a great way to go. Let me know if you guys want to see more videos like this where I'm putting two palettes kind of head to head. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.